Right. So thank you everyone for joining today's Like Minds meeting. And it's a rare privilege to have Elizabeth, or we call her Liz, Jai, and she's very much within the IT space and AI. She's very passionate about that. We've been speaking for a long time, and I'm glad we finally have her on board with us today to give a presentation on artificial intelligence and how it can help our careers. And there's so much going on. We're just chatting earlier on today with so much we can do with AI these days. So I think it's very good to have Liz with us today. Liz, so over to you. We'll have your presentation.
Thank you, John. Nice to meet you all. It's great to be connecting with other like minds. I really, really love the name of the network. Um, I'll tell you a bit about myself first, and then we can talk about AI. And John, can I just confirm that I still have, how much time do I have, John?
You still have the time we discussed. Don't worry.
I still
It's
have,
fine.
okay, okay.
Yes.
So, so as I said, I'll tell you about myself, and then we'll spend most of the session talking about AI. And I really want this to be an interactive conversation. Um, and hopefully there'll be time for questions at the end. So, by way of introduction, I am Liz. For those that can't tell from my last name, Nigerian origin. I've been living and working in the UK for a long time now, and I like to describe myself as an AI evangelist. So I I've spent the last 10 years working in consulting or advisory, as some people call it, advising multiple clients from banks to retailers and public sector organizations on how they can use AI to transform. A lot of that advisory is actually more about helping CEOs, CIOs, and C suites shape the right agenda for AI for their organization, and partnering with them to bring it to bear. So I currently work with an organization called Capgemini in the UK. For those that don't know them, they are a French headquartered IT consulting company. We employ just under 400,000 people globally. And I sit in their London practice. So I head up one of the AI teams, and I'm a director in that business. Before I joined Capgemini, I worked at PwC UK, so they're a professional services company, and again, I spent about 6 years there, actually in the AI and digital space. And before PwC, I was with another consulting company called Accenture. So it's been great to have, you know, a number of years worth of experience, as a client partner, as an advisor to organizations. And last year, I decided that after all that experience, that I would set up, a venture alongside my day job, which is called Ziti. And Ziti Group is an organization that trains individuals of African origin, particularly young people, in AI. And we're trying to play our part in addressing the skills gap that exists across the continent. So that's a bit about me. The other thing to note is that I am a mum. Um, I have a son that is turning 4 in October. He's half Nigerian and half Congolese, which is a combination that you don't really come across because my partner is Congolese. And I'm Christian, and as I said, I've got Nigerian origin as well. So it's really lovely to meet you all. So today I just wanted to take you through what I what I like to call an AI masterclass. But before I do that, I'd like to get a sense of um the AI mastery on the call today. So can you can you give me a thumbs up? And I'm just checking that Zoom does have a thumbs up. Yeah, it does have them. So can you give me a thumbs up if you have used ChatGPT today? Olumachi, that's amazing. Ibinka, Julie, oh, that's lots of thumbs ups. That's brilliant. Can you give me a thumbs up as well if you use AI in your day job? Do you use AI day to day in when you work? Brilliant. Thumbs up from Bola, Tunde. Great. Um, now give me a thumbs up if you for those that use AI in their day to day. Give me a thumbs up if you think AI has been delivering real value to you. Has it been giving you time back? Has it, is it very valuable for you? Brilliant. Okay, that's great. And I guess the final question I've got is, do you feel like you fully understand everything that AI has to offer? If you do, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. That's why I'm here. No, okay, that's brilliant. Olalua, cool. All right. Olalua, Justin, Julie. Yeah, I got you, Julie. That's fine. We will. I'll just share my screen and let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Um, I can't see the Zoom screen, so if someone could come off mute and just let me know if they can see
Yes.
the screen, okay, that'd be great. Brilliant, thank you so much. Um, so I always like to go back to basics when I talk to people about AI, and I think that is so important because I think once you actually fully understand um what AI truly is, because there's a lot of hype around it, there's a lot of concepts and terminologies, but once you truly understand what it is, it'll help you sort of be the right foundations, the right understanding that you can then um, use to identify what those AI capabilities mean for you and how you can leverage on them. So, fundamentals of AI. AI is a collection of multiple machine capabilities that mimic humans. So we underestimate the amount of um, the amount of skills and capabilities that we use, you know, every day at work, in life. And actually, if you actually take a pause and reflect on everything that you do and how you do it and the intelligence behind it, and you break all of that down, you'd be able to understand AI probably better than trying to get your head around what machine learning and deep learning is. And what do I mean by that? So every time you you draft an email or you create to send an email to someone, you first of all sort of think about what you want to achieve from the email, right? And then you think about what you're going to say, and then you start to type, and you start to basically create, obviously, the content of the email. And so in that process you are you're thinking, and you're then generating content. an output, and then you click on the email and send it. And if you look at what AI is able to do today, it's also able to mimic those behaviors. So it's able to think, it's able to generate content, and it's also able to then execute and in some cases, take action. And obviously, that email composition is a very simple example. Regardless of the industry that you work in or what you do, um, if you, as I said earlier, if you actually think about the skills that you use, it would be a combination of thinking, um, generating content, whether you generate in an email or a Word document, or you generate it for an image to bring it to life, or it's a video. So human beings are very much, know, we're great thinkers, and we're really great with then sort of bringing those thoughts to life. And one thing that powers our thoughts um, and and the way and the way we generate, whether it's content, whether it's speech, is what we've learned over the years. So we've all gone through years and years of education. We've also specialized, some of us are specialized in particular domains. Some of us have then worked over the years to build a wealth of knowledge in a particular industry or area. And that ability to learn, whether it's learning general knowledge or specialist knowledge, has been codified into an AI capability called machine learning. And that allows you to train machines on knowledge, on domains, on disciplines, on what's been done before. And it doesn't just stop at, that training. You can then get AI solutions to generate, you know, to generate that content or outputs based on what they've been taught, because that is what we do. So that's what machine learning is all about. So it's basically mimicking the way we learn, but obviously using a number of methods and what I'll say frameworks that have been long established in computing. Deep learning is another is an evolution of machine learning, and it's basically a replica of our brain, and the way our brain is able to store lots and lots of information, lots of data, all of that knowledge that we've amassed over the years. But also, the knowledge that's come from experience as well, of trying and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So machines are also now able to learn that way. They're able to learn using very complex algorithmic structures that allow them to fully understand the world and domains um, and sort of paradigms in the way that we do. And that's actually why when you talk to ChatGPT and it talks back at you, it's very human-like, because it's been trained to store information and retrieve that information the way we do, the way our brains work. Um, and the other capability that I wanted to talk about today is natural language processing. And the reason why this is important is because this is actually what is powering the new generation of AI advances out there. I think it's the reason why we're all such a big fan of ChatGPT. It's because ChatGPT can speak our language. If you look at where we were at a couple of years ago, to train a machine or interact with a system, you had to learn software programming languages. But today You don't have to, because those machines can now engage with us in our language, which could either be English, French, Yoruba, Igbo, whatever language the model has been trained on. What I also think is quite interesting about natural language processing is that it's so multifaceted, because it's about, first of all, a machine's ability to understand our language and make sense of it and fully understand, in most cases, what you mean. But also, some machines can actually also, dig deeper and understand, right, what sort of emotions are underlying this message, what sentiments do I need to sort of pick out, how do I fully sort of contextualize this, again, based on what they've been trained on. So that's what we call natural language understanding, the ability for machines to understand um, our language, but also understand speech or text, which is the two ways we express ourselves. We're either sort of speaking, or we're using text. So that's an element of natural language processing. You also have natural language generation, which is then the ability of a machine to generate language and generate content using human language. Um, so, and then you have things like translation, and other subcategories in that space, which is, the ability for machines to translate from one language to another. Now, I've just talked about a number of capabilities, but AI is a lot broader than that. There are multiple capabilities that power the technologies that we're seeing in the market today. So in most cases, to build AI systems, you have to combine deep learning or machine learning with natural language processing, and in some cases with other capabilities as well, like computer vision, which is also quite a great, a grand category in today's market. Um, in addition to the capabilities that I've talked through, you're probably hearing a lot about generative AI. And it's a category that basically underpins ChatGPT, and that is powered by large language models. And it's basically just the ability for AI to generate, whether it's text, images, code, or any other forms of outputs. So that's a huge category at the moment. There's a lot of products in this space. So if you have been using ChatGPT, that's great, but also check out Claude if you haven't. There's Gemini as well. There's Manoster AI, which I was using the other week. There's just so many. There's so many tools out there, and they all have their strengths. So some are great at generating images, and some are great at text. Some of them are really great at research. Um, Agentic AI is another category that you may have heard of, particularly in the world of business. It's making a lot of waves because um, it's this whole new framework of training machines to work independently, to, leverage what they've learned to actually think, to make decisions, to then act without um, humans in the loop necessarily. So those AI systems are called agents, and they're able to basically follow the process that we use to plan what we're going to do. This is based on research or based on certain sort of objectives, and then execute and continuously evolve. I've talked about computer vision, so I'm not going to talk about that again. But I was also going to say another major AI category in today's market is AI analytics, which has always been around, and this is what some people call AI for data. It's the ability to put AI whether it's generative AI or other forms of or other capabilities on top of data to provide analytics and insights and really bring that data to life. This continues to be so analytics has always been around for a while, but the combination of AI and analytics is really driving a new wave of opportunities for businesses. So, because AI is so it's so complex as a as a technology toolkit, a lot of organizations really struggle to know what AI capability to invest in, and how to and what AI capability will unlock value for them. And you as individuals may also be thinking about right, which AI capability you need to learn more about. And my answer to that is AI is really a toolbox. So you should be looking at leveraging a combination of capabilities to achieve the outcome that you want to achieve. As I said, a lot of the categories in today's market are a combination of machine learning, natural language processing, and other forms of AI. And what you find anyway is with AI solutions, you always need natural language processing to act as the interface between AI and humans. So you can engage with the AI system, whether to provide input or feedback, or just get a report on what it's done. So natural NLP, as it's called, is such an important interface, and I think is playing a huge role in the human and AI collaboration wave that we're in at the moment. I just wanted to talk about ChatGPT for a while because I know everyone loves ChatGPT. And the reason why I like talking about how powerful the technology in ChatGPT is today is because I don't think we actually quite understand what a game changer it is. So ChatGPT has been trained on lots and lots of data on the internet, research papers, sort of thought papers, opinions in some cases, history books, and just books from different sort of fields. And more so, it's been trained to consume everything that we've produced for probably ever since the internet started. So you can imagine how much of a reference it's got on humans and how we behave and how we talk and how we think and what's important to us and our definitions and how we see the world and all those domains and fields that really underpin the way we work and live today. And if you had to train humans on the knowledge that ChatGPT has today, you would literally need millions of humans. And there's no chance that there's no way they'll be able to remember all of the information. So the fact that you can actually have all of that knowledge in a computer system, access it from anywhere, in your own way to get exactly what you need, is quite a game changer. We've talked about deep learning, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Just wanted to sort of talk about how computers learn, and because a lot of the, particularly with large language models, a lot of what they've been trained on is in human language. So obviously computers have to then convert that, right, to make sense of it. They need to sort of convert it to sort of machine language so they can store it and represent it in a way that is easy to retrieve. So that's why every time you ask ChatGPT a question, it's able to almost sort of generate the answer quite quickly because, internally, it still thinks like a machine. But then before it talks to you, it will convert it to human language so you can make sense of it. Um, I love this quote because I think it really signifies the shift that we've seen in the last couple of years since ChatGPT and LLM products came to market. So, as I said earlier, for years we had to learn software programming to speak to machines. And for anyone who has a software engineering background, you would agree with me that there's so many languages that you had to learn, from Python to .NET to C# to Java, and now you don't need to be a software programmer to talk to a machine or to get it to build a website for you, or to get it to analyze data for you. And machines can now speak our language, and they're models that have been trained on African languages. They're standard models on Azure. Can they basically have over 130 languages in their library. And if you think about what this means for businesses as well, and the ability to have computer systems that can uh, support their global operations and use that translation service to provide, that layer of contextualization and local support. That is such a big advantage for businesses. So we've talked about natural language processing. So I think we'll move on for this. I think a lot of people um, find it difficult to basically understand what role they want AI to play. I think some people think, right, I'll use AI for everything. I'll delegate and write my report for me, write my research paper for me. And there's some people on that spectrum. There's some people on the spectrum of I don't quite trust AI, and so I am going to approach everything that AI does and says with skepticism. Obviously, when you're working in a business context, it's more about what outcomes you want that AI solution to deliver, and whether you can trust it to deliver that outcome on its own, or whether you want to actually get it to be supervised and monitored by a human, right? So, um, in organizations and for businesses, they're the three archetypes that I always recommend that organizations think of when they're looking to invest in an AI solution. And these archetypes help you really think about what role you want AI to play versus what role you want the human to play in that scenario. So there are three AI personas, as it were. So for AI use cases, or initiatives that you think will require human oversight, monitoring, then in that case, you want AI to act as an assistant. And a really good example of this is in banking, loan applications. So you definitely don't want an AI solution managing that process end to end, because of regulations, but also because there's a risk of the AI making a decision that is either sort of grounded in insufficient training, bias, and all the other underlying issues that we still have to deal with. So in those cases, you want AI to act as an assistant. You want the human to still be in the driving seat. And it's very much like, having a personal assistant that helps you gather all the information that you need. It might even make recommendations, but you still have to take the decision, and you still need humans to own the outcome. You also have another AI persona that I like to call the analyst. And these are AI systems that you just want to put them on top of data, or your your database, or information sources in your organization, and you want them to continuously analyze for you. So these sort of AI solutions are great at coming up with ideas, insights, recommendations, but they wouldn't have the capability to then implement them. The agent is the third and final persona. And we talked about agentic AI earlier on. So this is very much aligned to that. It's the concept of having AI orchestrated execution from start to finish. This is already happening in manufacturing, in certain industries as well. Agents are used for back office processes, particularly in the areas of finance, where the processes that are because they're data led and they're data driven. It's very easy to train an AI to orchestrate those processes end to end. So before I pause for questions, I just wanted to talk about the AI opportunity and why I think everyone needs to be part of this new economy. So for those who have links to Africa, I just wanted to signpost that Africa does have a growing AI economy. I think some of you would have seen the surge in innovation, in the fintech space as well, and because of the young population in Africa, but also because of the penetration that we've now got around digital connectivity. The AI economy is rapidly growing, so you can see some statistics there on the screen. Globally as well, there's a similar direction of growth across the globe. You've all seen the big bets that the US and other countries have made around AI, and the impacts that is having on certain industries, but also the interesting thing to sort of note with all of this is AI is starting to have an impact on jobs. And a lot of organizations have basically they've decided to ride on the AI wave, to make cuts, and certain workforce decisions. Now, whilst that might seem like a downside of AI. The reality is that the World Economic Forum actually think AI is going to create more jobs than like the jobs that AI will create will exceed the jobs that are lost. So I think we definitely need to take an optimistic view. However, the final thought I'll leave you with is AI is here to stay, and AI is changing the nature of work. And so everyone needs to get up to speed with it. Um, I think there was a quote I heard the other day that said AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. So my encouragement to everyone that isn't using AI today is to definitely start on that journey, and I think it just starts with curiosity, and playing around with it, and just understanding how it works, and also just testing, you know, how it can testing out what it can help you with, and trying to test out as many tools as possible, um, and also it's making sure that you're not just applying it in your personal life, but you're using it at work as well, and you're using it to become more productive, to deliver more value, and to really give yourself an advantage. So, on that note, I'm going to pause and take questions.
Thanks, Liz. That was a brilliant presentation. I think that was very good. I maybe I'll start with the questions. Well, people should feel free to put the question on the chat, or if you want to ask the question directly, you feel free to say, "Yeah, feel free to ask the question." Or you could put it on the chat, and we could read through the chats. I think that would be easier for you. Let me kick this off by saying, and it sounds like yes, ChatGPT is if you rank the various generative AIs, which you think is arguably the best. There's been a lot of talk around, oh, it's not ChatGPT. And that one says now is Claude, or someone says DeepSeek. Someone says it's Gemini. But I've kind of noticed on if you go to YouTube, there seems to be I see something a drive to demarket ChatGPT. I've seen so many videos. So if you're using ChatGPT, you know you're doing the right thing. Look at this one. There's always using ChatGPT as a
Mhm.
reference point and arguably trying to demarket it. But
Yeah.
I've never bought it any because my experience, it gives me the best output anytime, any day. When I compare and ask questions, I go about three or four, it gives me the best response. But what are your thoughts around those generative AIs in terms of
AI
using
is so firstly, John, you're putting me in a difficult position because I'm not meant to take sides, but I will be, but I'll talk about my personal experience, because I think that's such an important question. I think ChatGPT is great for everyday use. I think you need an AI model or chatbot that sort of understands you, that you talk to every day and becomes your assistant. And ChatGPT is really good at that because it's actually, it's only able to, it can store sort of data around you and, conversation history, but it's also able to generate very basic sort of images and documents. Um, and so I think that's one thing that ChatGPT is great for. So if you wanted to have that one AI that you go to every time for basic things, then I'll start with ChatGPT. And I think Claude is actually better with documents, document generation. So if you want to create slides, or artifacts, then Claude performs better. Claude is also better at research because it just does more thinking than
Mm,
ChatGPT. Um, Manos, I find Manos, for those who are not aware of Manos, I suggest checking it out. Manos is great at building applications as well. So I built an app on Manos the other day, and it only took me 15 minutes, obviously with the right prompt engineering. But I will be very honest and say that the reason why a lot of people probably don't get the most out of ChatGPT is because they don't know how to prompt it.
Mm,
And I think to make the most of the knowledge in the systems, you need to know how to prompt it. And one of the one of the courses that we have in Ziti is focused on prompt engineering because um, AI, the level of result that I get from AI is honestly very, very good. And that's because of the way I explain what I want, the structure that I use, and how I make sure, because I understand how AI thinks and works as well, how I make sure that all of that is embedded into the prompt. So I think prompt engineering is also very, very important. So unfortunately, I mean, there isn't like a single best. I think they've all got their strengths. And I think you just have to, you have to just play with those different those products, but make sure you
mm,
have the one that you go to every time.
mm.
Yeah, so you kind of build that relationship.
Yeah, I think you have a point there. In terms of one you go to every time, I think that's how I feel anyway. Anyway, let's get
Mm.
more questions from anyone on the listening today. We still have a couple of minutes to go, and
Hi,
it's
Liz.
almost 7:30. Anyone have any
Hi,
question?
hi, Liz. Hi, it's Joel
Hello.
here. I'm not sure you remember me from PWD days. Mark Crawford introduced us.
Oh yes, do you know what? I can't see your face, but your voice sounds familiar.
Yeah, yeah,
How
we
are
spoke.
you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Thank you so much for the training today. Really insightful. Actually, one of the things I wanted to ask, you've kind of touched on it. That is the prompting. Um, for me, I use ChatGPT mainly at this time because of some circumstances. However, in my previous place, due to um, internal, what's the word now? Restrictions, we're not allowed to use AI.
Hmm.
Um, I just want to ask in situations like that, because we have a lot of emails, a lot of things to reply to, a lot of things to write out. How
Yeah.
do you go about navigating a situation where you're not allowed to use AI? How do you go about it?
How do you
And
go about it? Hmm.
yes, and also back to the prompt issue. Not a lot of us are very good with prompt engineering. For example, if I want to do something, I'll just say, just write me a cover letter based on da 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 da, straightforward. How for a professional like you, I know you've been really into AI way back from PwC days, way back. I know you're really big on it. How do we interact with ChatGPT in our day-to-day life to give us the best results? I realized recently when I asked ChatGPT to write the cover letter, it comes with dashes and spaces, and I was reading something recently that says you have to prompt to say, hey, do not use dashes.
Yeah.
And places where you want it to use dashes, for example, onboarding, it will now
Yeah.
live on and boarding. You know what I mean? So how do we do these things to get the best of
How
it?
do you probably, yeah. So, so that's your first question. Do you have Copilot in your
No, we
current?
don't. No, we don't. I
Okay.
know before I left, we were being migrated to the latest Microsoft whatever, which will include
Yeah.
Copilot. But as at the time I left, we don't have Copilot.
Okay. So, I mean, if you don't have access to AI in your workplace, I think there's still nothing stopping you from using AI on your personal devices to research and prepare and
Hmm.
just get ideas.
Okay.
obviously, it's a shame that that would have to happen, in a different environment, not on your work laptop. But I think you can still use AI to sort of research what you want to do, get it to help you structure your thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you sort of you execute some of that yourself manually. But that said, I um a lot of organizations are investing in AI and making
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
that colleagues across the organization have access to Copilot.
Mm.
So my other recommendation is to put forward a case and say, if I'm able to get access to Copilot, M365 Copilot, I think it's going to increase my productivity by X%.
Okay.
And just focus more on what the business will get rather than what you think you're going to get.
Okay.
And that way, it's more of a business decision than a personal
Personal.
decision. So your second question around prompt engineering, I have a templates that I use every time I want to prompt to just help me sort of remember all the things that I need to say, especially if I want ChatGPT to create, a body of text, a body of content for me.
Mm.
But I also think ChatGPT, there are ways you can get it sort of remember your preferences and your history, right? So if you've told it that you wanted to do things a certain way, it takes note of that. So obviously that's something that you can turn on. But I've seen that someone posted a question in the chat around privacy and personal information, and you do need to be careful. I think that's a really good question to ask. You do need to be very careful, because ultimately all the information is stored on the cloud, right? And so I think in all your dealings with ChatGPT, um be be open, but don't be specific, right? So don't be too specific. So um you know create the scenarios, but without putting in information that would be personal or identifiable. You can make things up. You can create hypothetical sort of situations that basically represent the actual situation, but with some made up elements. So that would be my advice. I think with respect to prompt engineering, you have to learn and practice it. I don't think there's a fast rule to it.
Okay.
So if there's a prompt engineering course, I suggest you take it. And I think over time as well, as you interact with these AI products, I think you'd naturally just figure out how to ask the right questions. Um, I think Ayatunde is next in the queue.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Ayatunde. Hello.
Good evening. Nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the reason why I raised my hand is when you mentioned co-pilots. So I've worked in a bank in Nigeria before where we were using ChatGPT before, but because of this privacy issues, it was stopped. So the bank had to deploy co-pilots. And what I observed from that is if I'm working on a document on Copilot now, okay, let's say you are working on a document on Copilot and I type something that looks like what is on that document that you are working on, I will see everything you are doing. I will see all your documents on my system if you're working on Copilot. So I just feel that one actually, because if what I got to know was my boss I was reporting to then in the bank
Mm-hmm.
was working on a document. And we were supposed to work together, but I was on a different desk and I typed something that relates to what he was working on. And he gave me his documents in my presence. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't really dig that Copilot.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. So ultimately, I think it's the reason why that's happening is because of how it's been architected.
Hmm.
So if you think about it, and I don't want to get technical, you tend to have like two to three layers, right, of applications, right? So you normally have the data layer, which is where all the data sort of sits. And then you will have things like SharePoints,
Yeah.
and right, yeah, and OneDrive. And there needs to be a level of sort of access management and restriction applied at that level before you bring in co-pilots. Because what a lot of organizations do is they just onboard co-pilots, and it has access to everything. So that means if you know how to query, or if you use this sort of this sort of if you use text that is similar to what other things that it's got access to.
Mm.
The way it's been trained is to search. So everything you put into it is searches and tries to find similar things, and then it regurgitates.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's down to how they've architected it. They've definitely not set the right permissions and access management rules. And I think it's a risk that needs to be addressed quite quickly.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions? I'm just looking at
There's a
the
question.
chat.
Yeah, there is so Femi asks, thanks, Liz. How do we use AI without feeling like a cheat?
Great question. So I think that there's two things to bear in mind for me. AI is the new way of working. So we all have to use AI. However, the way to use it without feeling like a cheat, make sure that you're still controlling the thought process. You're still in the driving seat. So you come with the initial idea. You use AI to refine it, but it's still your idea, right? It's still your intellectual output. And then you can use AI to generate the generate content or an output, but you still review it, right? Because you're ultimately still owning that output. So I suggest make sure that you're in the driving seats, and you're bringing in that human element, and checking and making sure that you still sort of own the process. And it's almost like how in an organization you would have a manager, right? You have a manager, and then you have people underneath the manager doing most of the work. It doesn't mean the manager is a cheat. The manager is at that level because they have years and years of experience to guide the team and make sure they do the right thing. So we're all AI managers and supervisors, and that's the best way to look at it. Did that answer your question, Femi?
It's all right. There's maybe ask one from Kazim said, how do you quickly identify when there's hallucinations and how to prevent it?
Yeah, this is one thing that you got to be careful of. Long answer, but some of the things I do is when I get responses from ChatGPT, I would ask it to give me the source. And in some cases, I actually ask that, can you verify? Can you, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? And in some cases, I come back and be like, oh, thanks for correcting me, and they'll correct itself. So I think one always sort of get ChatGPT itself to check its knowledge, to check the facts. If you're not convinced, ask it to give you the source and the reference and check it yourself. Some people also would use Claude to mark ChatGPT's homework and vice versa. So you sort of have multiple AI agents sort of almost corroborating and validating the information before you believe it. But I also think you can avoid hallucination in the way you prompt ChatGPT, and telling it that credibility of output matters to you, and you want it sort of make sure that it's not making up stuff. And it's also calling out where it hasn't got a lot of confidence around the answer that it's giving you. So there are ways you can sort of prompt it to make sure that you avoid that as much as possible. Yeah. There's a question from Karen about how Copilot works. Great question. I am assuming that you have Copilots, M365 Copilots. I can tell you how it works, but we don't have enough time because this is one of the things that my team actually does to help clients train people on how Copilot works and what they can use it for. But there's a tip I'll give you. It's when you log on to work next, go to Teams. If you have Copilot in Teams, which I'm pretty sure is the case, ask it, just ask it and say, what can you do? What can I use it for? And it'll tell you. But you can also use it to summarize documents. You can tell it to draft emails for you. I do that a lot. So sometimes because I have to write lots and lots of emails every day. So I'll just be like, I need to draft this email to this person with this tone. This is what I'm trying to achieve. Give me an email with, this sort of structure, and I'll give you the content as well, but in a very raw way, and then it'll come back and draft me a very nice email that sounds like a Liz email because it knows how I think. So that's one practical way I use it. Sometimes as well, when I need to extract information from documents and put it in a table so I can paste it in an email, I'd be like, right, I need this information extracted, convert it to a table, make sure the table has these columns, and it'll do all of that for me. I'll copy and paste it and then use it. So it's really good at helping you process information and structure information and create outputs that you need to create quite quickly. You can also use it to prepare for meetings. You can use it to listen in on meetings. If you joined late, if the recording has been turned on and you have Copilot, you can go to Copilot and say, right, what have I missed? As I said, there's lots more that you can use it for, but we don't have enough time to talk through it on today's call. What are the questions? I think there's a question here from Olumachi. Can you cite an example of how to question? How to ask AI questions? Was that so? Olumachi, just trying to understand your question.
Yeah, I think you talked about prompting, right? So I think she's getting at how do you develop that skill to know exactly how to ask the right questions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a structure that I use, which basically, for me, because you have to remember, AI is not, it can't read your mind. And sometimes when we want AI to do things, we think we can just give it a very sort of simple instruction. But the reality is there's a reason why you want to do that thing. But you also need to tell you who you are, what persona you are in that sort of scenario, what you need to do, why you're doing it, and also if there's anything that is particularly important to you. How you structure that doesn't really matter. Just make sure you put all of those things in there. And again, as you do more and more prompting, I think you learn more and more about AI and how specific you need to be, because it's also different by model.
Yeah, let's just take two more questions because of time.
Okay.
Just quick one. Yeah, Claire, your hand's raised up, right?
Yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Liz. Really lovely session. I joined halfway, but my question is, has anyone, I don't know if it's been asked or been talked about in the very start, how do we handle for me, I find AI now a bit overwhelming because, and I'll cite an example. For example, I was working on a recent project and for some reason we're having so many sort of requests, and then the bosses were like, oh, you know what, we need to turn this thing faster. So let's, feel free to use your co-pilot and all that and get all of this information. So it got to a point where there was just too much going on. So how do we actually handle those sort of like, there must be a psychological way. So this is me asking the question of, okay, we know that AI can do all of these things, but then for the human now, where I personally am getting to the point like, look, this is getting too much.
So
Is
overwhelmed, yeah.
yeah.
And what's more overwhelming for you? Is it the hype around it, or is it
No.
just
No, it's
yeah,
I think it's the churn out of information that comes out. So maybe it's partly due
yeah,
to the fact that maybe not prompting right but I
yeah,
believe I am, but it's and I like what you said where you say, oh, you are the original, so you're the initiator. You put in what your
yeah,
idea is and then it brings it back.
yeah,
'Cause sometimes I'm like, I see a problem or I see some sort of request that's come through and I'm like,
yeah.
oh, this makes no sense to me. And I just pop that question straight into AI and I get loads of junk. Not junk, helpful information, but at what point do we actually, it's that
Yeah,
balance. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And again, I think it goes back to prompting, Claire. I think, sometimes when I want to use AI, I tell it what I want to use it for. So if I need to create an executive summary, for example, I tell it it's an executive summary. I tell it who it's going to, but I'm also like, keep it at 200 words for Christ's sake.
Cool.
Um, and that always helps. Like if you're very, very specific with AI, it will do exactly what you tell it. So I think also just taking time to think about what you want to get out of it and writing it down, you're going to save more time doing that at the start than waiting for it to, you know, provide the response and then trying to sort of narrow that, get what you really need out of it. So, I said it really just kind of goes to prompting. And Guy, I mean, I think people really underestimate the power of the importance of prompt engineering, but we have spent years learning how to speak and engage with other humans. And so if we're going to talk to machines and get the most out of them, we need to learn how to, engage with machines and get the most out of them. And you've got to put in that investment. And I think the people that will get the most out of AI are people that really take the time to learn, how we think and, how to get the most out of it. And it will take time and you just got to be patient, I would say. And the patience will pay off.
Cool. Thank you so much.
No problem.
The last question
And I
is Olawale.
yeah.
Yes, good evening once again. Thanks, Lizzie, for the very beautiful presentation. Mine is a bit like comment and, with a little bit question too. I see Google like, I see ChatGPT like a Google. Those days when we're running there, this you put something, it comes up, then you start opening them one by one and make notes. But in this case, it runs at the back, picks those items and turn into a statement for you. However,
Mm,
when I have something like a project or something to do, I can go and ask for a point, jot the point,
mm,
generate, I write everything I need to write, then take it back again to ChatGPT to say that, okay, can you refine this for me, make it professional, make it this, and it works
mm,
that way. However, the point that where people just dump it, they ask them to make statement, make it 1,001, make it this, do nothing. My whole take
mm,
about it is that it is likely that the person will start declining in level of knowledge. Because if you don't
yeah.
even express yourself again, just drop it in there and it does it for you
Mm,
and everybody is happy. So at what point do we draw a line, or do people now need to say that, okay, if I give ChatGPT all my work, even me, I will not have value to myself after a while? At what point do
mm.
people should draw the line? Thank you.
Yeah, I think again, it sort of goes back to what we were discussing earlier, right? Around keeping that ownership. Um, because I've actually got this slight nervousness that if we keep using AI the way we use AI, we waste some people use AI today. Like a lot of people forget the art of thinking and the art of critical thinking. And I think you have to have a bit of a structure around how you use AI. And so it goes back to the point that I made earlier around making sure you first of all think about what it is you want to get out of that AI interaction. What's important to you? Why you want the AI solution to help you. So are you doing it so you can do it faster? Are you doing it so you can basically optimize, you can have a bit of polish around what you're doing? Because thinking about all of those things will mean that you're still architecting the process and you're also able to specifically tell the AI what you need from it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with using AI. There's nothing wrong with using AI to write your emails, to generate documents, and whatever you wanted to do, as long as you're still in control. Okay, so I'm going to hand back to you, John. But thank you all for a very interactive conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz. We really appreciate it. Everyone should give her a thumbs up. And just to say thank you very so much for your time. It's been very enlightening. We will try use it a bit more. I think it's very helpful in terms of the promptings. One area which I'm looking at to explore a bit more is this agentic AI and how to use agents to assign tasks. It seems to be an interesting aspect of AI as well, which I think it's worth also looking at. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Liz. And likewise, thank you so much for also joining. We're about 45 now, which is great. I think you only peaked at 46, so most people are still within the meeting. So Liz, well done. You kept everyone around for a while. So thank you so much once again. And likewise, we'll catch up again next month. In the meantime, we have the group. If you want to share anything, feel free to share in the forum. In need of support in any way we can, feel free to reach out to me or anyone within the group as well. We'll be just happy to support you. And those who are joining, likewise, is an African professional network aimed at providing support to the Africans in the diaspora. And so that's where we are today. So feel free to be part
Mr.
of the
John,
group. And yeah,
this is Sunday. Please, I would like you to link me with Kalu, the IT risk guy.
no problem. Just
Talk
give me a message on
on WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. I'll
All
do
right.
that. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening. We'll catch up again soon. Thanks once again, Liz. All right. Bye
Thank
bye
you.
now.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Hold on.